The letter arrived just after midnight. Alexander read it once, then twice, then a third time. For several seconds, the most powerful man in Greece said nothing. Around him, the room was silent. His generals exchanged nervous glances. The message was short. Sparta had refused to submit. Again. Most cities surrendered when Alexander approached. Sparta did not. Most rulers feared him.
Sparta respected only strength. And as Alexander prepared for the greatest military campaign in history, he faced a dangerous problem.
We attack
He
at
could not
dawn.
leave an enemy behind him.
The cavalry
Not
will
an
flank
enemy
from the
like
east
Sparta.
here.
By sunrise, the decision had been made. Persia could wait. Sparta could not. Thousands of Macedonian soldiers marched south.
Hold the line!
Their long sarissas shimmered beneath the morning sun. The ground trembled beneath rows
For
of
glory!
disciplined infantry.
Faster!
Supply
Keep
wagons
pace!
stretched across
Do
the
not
horizon.
fall behind!
At the center rode Alexander himself, 22 years old, already king, already undefeated, already becoming a legend. Yet as the army entered Spartan territory, something felt wrong. There were no armies waiting, no defenders, no challenge, only silence. The villages were empty.
The roads abandoned, the hills strangely quiet, and Alexander hated it, because he knew exactly what it meant. The Spartans were watching. The first attack came 3 nights later. A group of Macedonian scouts disappeared while exploring a narrow valley. At dawn, their bodies were discovered beside a river. No survivors, no witnesses, only Spartan spears planted into the ground. A message, a warning. You are not welcome here. The campaign immediately became more difficult. Supply
They've crossed the
wagons
river,
vanished.
Alexander.
Messengers
By dawn, they will be
disappeared.
upon us. We must
Small
move
groups
now.
of soldiers were attacked during the night. The Spartans refused to fight a traditional battle. Instead, they turned every hill, every forest, and every valley into a weapon.
For weeks, Alexander advanced deeper into Spartan territory. Slowly, carefully, patiently. But despite the attacks, he never lost control. Because Alexander was not simply a warrior. He was one of history's greatest military minds. And he understood something important. The Spartans were trying to weaken his army before the real battle began.
Which meant the real battle was still coming. Then, one morning, everything changed. A messenger arrived. Spartan forces had finally been spotted. Thousands of them, gathered on a plain south of the mountains, waiting. The moment both armies had been moving toward was finally here. The next day, 2 legends faced each other. On one side stood Alexander's army.
Veterans who had fought across Greece. Elite cavalry. Disciplined phalanxes carrying spears nearly twice the length of traditional Greek weapons. On the other side stood Sparta. Not the Sparta of stories, not the Sparta of myths, the real Sparta. Warriors who had trained since childhood, men who believed surrender was worse than death.
Men who had spent their entire lives preparing for this moment. As dawn broke, neither side moved. Thousands waited, watching, listening, knowing that history was about to change. Then the first horn sounded. The Macedonian phalanx advanced. Rows of sarissas pointed forward like a moving forest of steel. The Spartans responded immediately. Shields locked together. Spears lowered. Formation tightened. The distance closed. Then came the impact. Steel crashed against bronze. Men screamed. Dust exploded into the air. The battle had begun. At first, neither side gained an advantage. The longer Macedonian spears inflicted terrible casualties, but Spartan discipline prevented collapse. Again and again, Alexander's soldiers pushed forward.
Again and again, the Spartans held their ground. Hours passed. Bodies covered the battlefield. Still, neither side broke. For the first time in years, Alexander faced an enemy capable of matching his army's determination. Then he noticed something, a weakness, small, almost invisible, but enough. The Spartan right flank was beginning to stretch. Alexander acted instantly.
He always did. Gathering his companion cavalry, he launched a direct attack against the vulnerable position. Thousands of horsemen thundered across the battlefield. The ground shook beneath them. Dust filled the sky. The Spartans reacted quickly. Reserve warriors rushed forward. For a brief moment, it seemed they might stop the attack. The battle balanced on a knife's edge.
History itself seemed to hold its breath. Then the line broke. Not everywhere, just enough. A gap appeared. Alexander saw it and drove straight through. The companion cavalry crashed into the Spartan flank. The formation began to buckle, then fracture, then collapse. What had been an organized defense became chaos. One unit retreated, then another. The impossible was happening.
Sparta was losing. As the sun disappeared beyond the horizon, the battle finally ended. The field belonged to Alexander. The Spartans had fought with legendary courage, but courage alone could not overcome superior numbers, superior logistics, and one of the greatest commanders who ever lived. Days later, Alexander entered Sparta, the city that had terrified Greece for centuries.
The city that had refused to surrender. The city that believed no enemy could break its spirit. Now it stood defeated. But victory created a new question. What happens next? In our timeline, Alexander marched east and conquered Persia. In this alternate world, he does the same. But now something is different. The Spartans join him. The most feared warriors in Greece become part of the most successful military machine in history. Persian armies collapse even faster. Eastern kingdoms surrender more quickly. The legend of Alexander grows larger than ever before. And perhaps his empire becomes stronger than the one we know from history. Perhaps it survives his death. Perhaps it remains united.
Perhaps it dominates the ancient world for centuries. But there is another possibility. A darker one. Alexander admired greatness. Sparta admired obedience. Together, they could create an empire unlike anything history had ever seen. Powerful. Disciplined. Efficient. But perhaps less free. A world where military achievement became society's highest ideal. A world shaped not only by conquest, but by control. And that is what makes this question so fascinating. Not whether Alexander could defeat Sparta. He probably could. The real question is, what would happen afterward? Because if history's greatest conqueror absorbed history's most famous warrior society, the ancient world might never be the same. One decision, one campaign.
One battle that never happened. And the course of history could change forever. If you enjoyed this journey into alternate history, subscribe for more stories about the battles, empires, and decisions that shaped our world, and the ones that almost did.